From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
Appreciate you guys for listening to the Wildcast podcast, located wherever you get your podcasts, also on the Wildcaster mobile app. Justin Spears, Michael Lev here with sports editor Brett Fera. Got another pregame episode coming your way. We'll be making our Pac-12 picks for the week at the end of this podcast. I know some teams have already had some conference games, but it's kind of exciting, guys. We got the bulk of Pac-12 play starting this week, and it's, of course, the last season of the Conference of Champions as we know it. So, exciting times ahead.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting. It's sort of, bittersweet, too, because it is the last run for the Pac-12 as we've known it. I noticed you have a very festive shirt going on today, Justin, maybe celebrating the occasion.
Yeah.
By getting a little fancied up there.
Yeah, man.
Have fun on your trip up to the Bay Area. It's Stanford's interesting, right? They obviously have been wooed and are going to be joining the ACC. They are awesome in all of the Olympic sports, the best in the entire country, right? They win that Director's Cup thing every year. And yet, as we were talking about before the podcast, their football program has no buzz. No buzz to the point that no one even really covers them on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. We're like searching around for some information, like why didn't the tight end get any targets last week? Is he injured? We couldn't find anything.
He's a preseason all Pac-12 second teamer, I believe. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this guy is the real deal. I'm going to include him in my field pass because that matchup between him and safety Garner Maldonado is going to be pretty interesting. And I thought he got hurt. And we've been looking all over the internet, looking all over the social media app formerly known as Twitter, and we can't find a damn thing. It's just, it's wild to me that a team like a Stanford has absolutely no media coverage whatsoever. And I know they're the worst team in the Pac-12. It's hard to cover a team that's terrible, but you got to cover them, especially in a market like the Bay Area.
What was the stat you were citing before the show, Brett?
Since 2010, Stanford has a better winning percentage than Georgia, Florida State, Penn State, Auburn, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, Texas A&M, Washington, Florida, Utah.
You rattled off multiple national championship winners.
Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma, they're all at the top. Boise State was obviously amazing for so long. But, Stanford has the 10th best winning percentage from 2010 to today. Now, granted, they were higher before the last 3 years. The David Shaw era, amazing for the first, 9 to 10 years. But the crazy part about what you guys are saying is I don't think the attention was there even then. Stanford did something really fascinating. Two things in the 2000s. They renovated Maples Pavilion, which was it's their basketball arena, which was absolutely amazing. The floor shook. It was an incredible home court advantage. It originally had, just like I think Cameron Indoor at Duke has, the baskets hanging from the ceiling, like high school gym style.
Yeah.
They updated it, renovated it, and it took all the character out of it. The only thing they've been able to put back is the baskets now hang from the ceiling again. Like they originally brought floor standing hoops, like NBA style, like we see at McHale. And then they renovated Stanford Stadium, which talked to Ryan Finley, our old boss, and people who love it as a venue. You've been there, Michael. Think it's a beautiful facility, but there's no college football character from it to any great degree.
They don't have any advertisement, right? Inside their stadium.
I didn't know that. That's
they don't have any sponsors, endorsements. It's all just Stanford.
So they took these two. Stanford Stadium hosted Super Bowls. They took these two weird, quirky, iconic venues and updated them for modern day right at the same time that people kind of stopped caring up there of going or paying attention, and that their teams had ebbs and flows and kind of look, now it's to the point where, especially for men's basketball and football, it's why they were left out for the first part. You talked about the Director's Cup. They've run the Director's Cup table through 3 different sponsors of that thing over 30 years. They're running sponsorship agreements over that, and yet it doesn't matter. They're an also ran in the conversation. So I think it all parallels to football, though, and the fact that the interest level just isn't there. The fact that the Chronicle and the other media outlets up there don't cover it is fascinating, but also doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So this website, Big Game Boomer. I don't know where they come up with these lists that they're most of them are nonsensical, but they just came up with one. Top 15 loudest and quietest stadiums in college football. They ranked Stanford as the quietest stadium in all of college football.
Yeah.
ASU's, now what's known as Mountain America Stadium, is number 2 on that list, which is kind of peculiar. But anyway, I do think there is some truth to that. I mean, that is not a place where you're going to have like a huge home field advantage.
And think about like the differences between what we're about to see on Saturday versus the last time Arizona hit the road when they were playing at Mississippi State, dealing with the cowbells and all that noise. Point. I'm like, man, it's going to be just night and day different. So it's almost going to be like kind of weird. You're like, it should be a whole lot louder in here, but it's not.
If Deion Sanders invented pumping music in during practice this week, and Jedd Fisch invented pumping cowbells in 2 weeks ago, does Fisch get credit for creating, like, telling people to wear noise canceling headphones during practice?
Now I know
I don't want you to hear anything. I don't want you to hear each other. No, I want you to practice with AirPods in that cancel everything, so that you can't even you have to sign language your plays to each other.
Brett, straight up, I feel like this is the only thing that I'm like allowed to report from practice, because they're very tight about that. They don't want us reporting anything coming from practice.
USC in about 4 weeks, right?
Oh man, that's right.
Hi, Carol.
But Arizona did not play any music whatsoever during practice
this week.
When I went out on Tuesday, normally they have music playing every single period. They have something going on.
So he was thinking about it.
But there was absolutely nothing on Tuesday. So maybe they are preparing for it. I don't know.
Prepare for the lack of noise.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But we'll see how Arizona does against a team that, I mean, what's the latest spread? 12.5?
12.5.
So Wildcats are nearly 2 touchdown favorites against the Cardinal. But Stanford or Arizona, they haven't had much luck against the Cardinal recently. The last time they played them was in 2019, as we all remember. That was the game that got defensive coordinator Marcel Yates fired, and that promoted Chuck Cecil to interim defensive coordinator for the remainder of the season. But the last time Arizona beat Stanford in Palo Alto, where they now go by Stanford, California. No, not Palo Alto. But the last time they won out there was 2006 during the Mike Stoops era. So it has been a minute. The last time Arizona beat Stanford, Andrew Luck, I believe, was the quarterback of the Cardinal down here in Tucson. So,
I remember him.
Long time.
Now I think the offensive coordinator position at Stanford is called the Andrew Luck offensive coordinator.
That's crazy.
Because he's basically, a $100 millionaire from his 6 seasons in the NFL to be able to.
Yep. So you feel pretty good about Arizona against Stanford, right? But then it gets pretty interesting, because after that you have Washington coming to Tucson for a nice little 7 o'clock kickoff next Saturday. Then you got other schools on the schedule like USC, Oregon State, Washington State, UCLA. Arizona's got to face 7 straight ranked teams after this upcoming week. I'm not saying that Arizona's going to overlook Stanford, and to be honest with you, they can't afford to overlook Stanford. But I feel like you might see Arizona having a hiccup or two against the Cardinal, just because of who they got next week.
I thought the opposite. I think we're going to see them
set the tone
that they haven't done. As good as they played theoretically against UTEP, and as good as they played theoretically against NAU, and as great as that comeback was against Mississippi State, they haven't played great. They've been good. And to me, I thought they were going to set the tone this week, which gets everyone, us included in the media, all hyped that maybe they can do it. And then, Washington comes in, and we'll see, if they get throttled or keep it close or whatever. Something interesting about that Washington game to me is the fact that, does Washington play this weekend? I'm assuming.
Yeah, everybody does.
Oh, that's right.
No bye weeks this week.
They have Cal at home. So Washington more than likely is going to win by a few touchdowns. They're going to probably move up a spot or two in the rankings to the top 6 or 7, and they're going to be on Pac-12 networks against Arizona at 7 o'clock next week. I mean, if I'm as much as I've been an apologist for the Pac-12 networks for a lot of its elements, like, this is the Pac-12 in a nutshell. That game is it. Any time a top 7 team is playing, they should not be relegated to Pac-12 network, but they are.
I agree,
because of just the way it falls. And it's a night game, so a 10 o'clock Eastern kickoff on Pac-12 Network for the 7th ranked team in the country next week. And I'd be mad if I was Arizona. Like, you need attention. You want attention. You're hoping and you're planning and you think you're going to go out and win. I got a sidebar on that in a second. You always play the game. You play to win the game, as a former ASU coach said. And did you guys all see Kenny Dillingham yesterday?
No.
You got to find this video. He, not purposefully, completely cribbed Herm Edwards' "You play to win the game" yesterday. Like, he wasn't like doing like a Ted Lasso on Allen Iverson where he was like repeating it. He was getting animated, and he's like, "Of course you think you're going to win. You play to win the game. You do," to the ASU media, and it's like you're watching it thinking, this is just
hello.
The earth is full circle, you know. And somebody said, I think Cameron Cox on Channel 4 in Phoenix actually said that, like, the earth is coming full circle on us right now. But anyway, the point being that it's laughable to me that game, even if Arizona's not considered great, that game is going to be on Pac-12 networks and not in that many homes for Washington's sake too.
Yeah. 4 out of the first 5 games of the season for Arizona has been on Pac-12 networks. All of them outside of Mississippi State. They're on Pac-12 network or SEC network.
And I've told you
Wildcats
guys,
been buried a little bit.
And I'll tell our listeners, we've got a story coming about Pac-12 network and kind of the behind the scenes. PJ Brown of our team is putting it together right now, and it's not so much about the contracts and anything, but it's about the fact that it's pretty good network, pretty good quality, pretty good people, good talent, all the above. It's just not that many people can see it.
Yep.
And but to your point, like, it's not about I like watching the games on Pac-12 Network. I'm not mad about it because I pay a lot of money for my cable bill to be able to watch it, but I can imagine how problematic that is.
No doubt. Now, you mentioned Arizona being good, not great, and we kind of expected that to happen, but I figured maybe we'd see the defense kind of come along as the season progresses. Is it safe to say that the defense is farther ahead of the offense?
Yeah, I think, not to speak for you, Brett, but I think you're referring mostly to the offense, right? I mean, the defense has been, they gave up 3 points against NAU, 10 points against UTEP, including 7 in garbage time.
And a lot of points off turnovers to Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I think it's based on expectations, right? Like, we expected
Speak
this.
For me. Do it.
we expected their offense to be like elite, and it's just been okay so far.
Yeah,
especially
I guess you're right.
to.
I would have said, I don't know what I said last week anymore, but I would have said that I would have thought Arizona would have beaten UTEP 42-20, not 31-10.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the offense has been good, not great, and you're right, the defense is way ahead of it. The hard part is, I'm not sure Mississippi State's that good, and so I still think we don't know. I don't think we know until next Saturday in Tucson is it homecoming or family weekend?
Family weekend. On
family weekend at 7 p.m. on Pac-12 Network. That's when we'll know if the defense is any good, unless they go and give up 40 to Stanford this weekend, and then we know
Which
the answer.
There is some precedence for that, because they went up to Cal last year, first game of conference play, shaky offensive line. We all thought Arizona was going to win, and they got blown out. Yeah. And their defense was just horrendous in that game. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think Stanford's problems are deeper than Cal's were at that time. But it makes me a little leery, just a little bit.
There's only a handful of things, though. I mean, we're talking like maybe 3 or 4 plays, 1 or 2 fewer interceptions from Delora. The difference between being a good offense and a near elite offense. So that to me is where I still kind of think maybe my good, not great is unfair, because
I don't think it's unfair.
Going back to your cat stats last week, your cat stats package last week, talking about Delora, looking at what you, me, and Justin all saw on Saturday night in the stadium, with the fact that Justin and I actually looked at this in different ways, and we talked about this on your show, I think, Justin, on ESPN 1490, where you looked at it of drives that started in the first quarter. I had looked at drives that started and finished, so complete drives in the first quarter. Neither looked good. I think yours was 3 of 10 they managed points on the season in the first quarter. Mine was they scored a touchdown against NAU the first drive of the season, and the next 6 drives that started and ended in the first quarter. So complete first quarter drives. 3 interceptions, a fumble, a turnover on downs, and a punt. I'm probably missing one, but the point is, it was basically 5 turnovers and a punt, but they averaged 6 plus yards a play, so they weren't bad. They just weren't converting. So again, take 2 or 3 of those turnovers away, and they keep going at 6 yards a play, and they've got more touchdowns. And to the point of cat stats last week, like we talked about it, if you take away the first quarter against Mississippi State, Jane Delore is the exact same player he was at Washington State. Statistically, that first quarter is what kind of draws them down here.
Yeah, I would also say, and Jed made this point when we asked him about just the disparity between the yards that they're gaining and the points that they're scoring. They had one turnover against UTEP. They had a blocked field goal, and they didn't try to score at the end of the game.
And that turnover against UTEP, we all saw and thought, why isn't this being reviewed?
Yeah.
And I've never even looked at a review of it yet. Probably should go back and see, but Tetero McMillan, who had a great game, coming down with the ball and it popping out, and we all thinking, was he down? And he might not have been, but we don't know. It was close enough. It should have probably been reviewed.
Yeah.
So maybe that wasn't a turnover.
And also, like you said, the lack of turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. While the defense has been great this season, in terms of takeaways, they're not really giving the offense shorter fields to work with.
It's one area where they're underperforming on defense a little bit is in the turnover department.
But that actually makes me think the defense is better than we're seeing, because they're holding teams to low yardage outputs, to low point outputs, while not getting big plays and mistakes from the other team. The other teams aren't really making mistakes. It's just that U of A is grinding them till they get rid of the ball.
So I was just looking at this Twitter account, X account by Parker Fleming. I just heard him on Ralph Russo's podcast as I was driving in. He's at Stats O War. It's a lot of advanced stats, and he's got this stat yards. Stats O War, yeah. Okay, yards before contact per attempt allowed, right? So the fewer yards, the lower this number is, the better. It means you are hitting the running back, within a yard of, a yard past the line of scrimmage, 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, etc. Arizona is second in the nation in this statistic in FBS. The second lowest. Only 0.6 yards past the line of scrimmage, running backs are getting hit on average by Arizona's defense. Yeah. And when I told you that, Justin, you said
D-line.
Meeting
guys at the line of scrimmage.
I actually think, and I'm the least football savvy of the three of us, so I'm going to say that this is my Ryan Finley. I'm going to pick a team because I like the colors. Moment of the show. And for those listening only now, that was the joke when they brought me in to join them once a week, was that, the previous sports editor won every week on our pick'ems because he just kind of picked, things that he thought went well. But no,
I love that
Ryan is very savvy and very knowledgeable. But this is my, I think the defensive line in a vacuum has played better than the offensive line, who is great. I really do. I think the offensive line hasn't been bad at all. It hasn't been problematic, but we haven't seen the running game blow open, things like that. So, I think for what the expectations are, I think the defensive line has outperformed their expectations compared to the O-line, which is a good thing for Arizona football. If the O-line has been good and the defensive line has been better than good, you'll take that if you're this team and these coaches.
Yeah, I would say, digging down even deeper on the offensive line, I think the pass protection has been really good. And the run blocking has just been kind of okay. Yeah, there are a lot of yards after contact, a lot of plays where the running backs are getting hit pretty early and they're still making positive gains. Pass pro, I've been impressed. Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have 2 NFL players playing tackle. Yep. Right now, and I think the presumed return of Raymond Polito to right guard and enabling Jonas Savanea to just focus on the one position, right tackle, I just think that stability factor is going to help them.
Yeah. But it's also, good before, we go to Pac-12 pick'ems is now your just-in-case scenario. Okay, one of Arizona's offensive linemen goes down. Now the Wildcats know who they can put in. I thought Leif Magnuson showed a lot of good stuff. The coaches were praising him. Joseph Bourgeon struggled at times, but I thought had some good moments at right tackle. But I think now, in case someone goes down, they know exactly who they have in their second string. Real quick, guys, before we go to Pac-12 pick'ems for the week, who would you say has been Arizona's MVP on the offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball through the first 3 games of the season in non-conference play?
Okay, I would say, if you just look at the stats on offense, you would go with Tetero and McMillan. But you could maybe make a case for someone like Josh Baker. Yep. Kind of holding things together on that offensive line. Very just underrated, important leader.
Haven't seen bad snaps either this season. Nope. That was a problem last year.
Nope. You just jinxed it, but True, no bad snaps. On defense, I think, again, statistically, you'd probably go with Jacob Manu. But I would say Bill Norton. I mean, he's been just kind of the driving force in the middle of that defensive line, whether it's drawing a holding penalty, bursting into the backfield, just occupying blockers. He is a true wide body.
You're a Big Ten football fan, aren't you?
Sure.
You just picked the two, essentially the nose tackle.
Oh, the center. Oh, it's true. I did.
That's not Norton's position,
Yeah,
but more or less, there was
yeah.
one, you basically just picked the center and the nose tackle as the team MVPs.
I did. Hey, man.
Bill Norton has 8 tackles and 1 tackle for loss on the year, and that's okay. To your point, though, he's disruptive. And that is allowing Manu and Flo and some of the outside guys and the other, the Taylor Upshaws and other people to do things in the backfield. But
like those 8 tackles, I'm wondering how many of Jacob Manu's 27 tackles is because of Bill Norton.
I know there's a thing called assisted tackles, right? If they had something that was sort of like setting up a tackle, like an assist in soccer or hockey, I bet you Bill Norton would have a lot of those.
Yeah.
Secondary assists.
Yep.
Or even maybe primary assists.
The Wayne Gretzky, if he's on the ice, he's getting an assist rule.
Yeah, I'll go with Teta Roa McMillan. The plays that he made down the stretch against Mississippi State, that was big time. I mean, if he wore a size 12 shoe instead of a 13 shoe, maybe Arizona scores a touchdown late in that game and they end up winning it. But some of the grabs that he's made, the plays that he's made, running downfield, maneuvering around the secondary, and then that one-handed grab against UTEP. I mean, there's a rule where you don't make noises in the press box or anything like that, but I felt like that one play allowed people to make a sound.
I'm Justin's going to get mad at me for saying this. I think the only thing you got kind of, and I think they were joking, but I think the only thing you got kind of chirped at is you were like, "Come on, show the replay," a couple of times.
Oh yeah,
and they were like, "Hey, no, quiet in the press box."
They're like, "Calm down, Justin." Like, well, come on, it's a
get your guy over there to press the button.
Yeah, we need to see the replay. But yeah, I got T-Mac on offense, and then for defense, I'm gonna go with a defensive lineman. So I really liked what I've seen out of. I don't want to say he's an MVP, more like a most improved player, but Taitai Uiagalelei, I thought as a secondary defensive line, Taitai Uiagalelei.
I could hear it all day. I love it.
The plays that he made late against Mississippi State helped out Jacob Manu, Justin Flo. Maybe at some point this season, Justin Flo can creep into that mix. But I would put Taitai up there. But Jacob Manu leads the Pac-12 in tackles. The last time that's happened in a full season is Scooby Wright in 2014. Still plenty of football to be played, but one thing that they really talk about when it comes to Jacob Manu is his communication with the secondary, with the safeties, with guys like Dalton Johnson, and also the defensive linemen. So I'll put Jacob Manu there as the MVP. Brett?
I think it's Manu. I think there's a glue component in addition to putting up numbers. So it's not just that he has padded stats. It's that he is essentially the captain quarterback of that unit in terms of, again, my less than football savvy mind compared to the two of you. I see him constantly.
Yeah.
Whether it's TV or in person, like he is the person my eyes are on, not even trying. And that to me kind of says something about being the standard bearer. And I do think it's McMillan. He's averaging 19 yards a catch, averaging 100 yards a game. I mean, he's gonna have 60 catches for 1,200 yards by the end of the year. I mean, it'll be more catches than that, but he's that good. And I think we knew it last year. And it's kind of wild because, I mean, if you really get to it, he, as good as Dorian Singer was, as great as Jacob Cowing is, I wonder if he was underused last year in some ways. I mean, it's wild.
I don't think he was ready to be used in the way he's used now.
Yeah,
I don't think he knew the whole. I talk all the time about the route tree. I think his route tree was very limited.
Cookie cutter
last year. It was a lot of stuff on the sidelines. Now you see everything.
Yeah,
you see it all.
And I think, and to be fair, Jacob Cowing has said and done all the right things. Last week on Saturday after the game, Cowing and Delora and Gunnar Maldonado were the three that spoke, right?
Yeah.
And Cowing was asked, it might have been by you, Justin, about McMillan and seeing him. And Cowing says all the right things of, he's that good, and Delora does too. And maybe Delora answered it. But the point was, Cowing's up there, and he knows he's an all-American quality receiver who's going to play in the NFL, and we're asking about his buddy.
Yeah.
You know, and he had a great game, and he had 10 catches for 80-something yards and a touchdown. So kind of his coming out party of 2023. So I think it's got to be, you know, in a weird way, McMillan's emergence is actually pushing Cowing down a little bit. I don't think the team would look at it that way, but that's a good thing. You know, that's what you want if you're an offense where there's going to be a point this season where Jacob Cowing potentially wins you a game, and there will be a point this season where T-Mac potentially wins you a game. You know, based on their abilities to either get open or, in T-Mac's case, go 8 feet in the air. You know, who knows what. And so while statistically Cowing is not at the point he was last year, I think the receiving core is in a weird way better than they were when Singer was here. Just because you have the dominant force, and yet you still know Cowing is kind of lurking, ready to just burn you.
Mr. Reliable.
Are we ready for Pac-12 picks, guys?
Pac-12 pick'ems, everyone's favorite segment.
Yes, it is. All right, so last week, it was a good week for me. A little bit of a rally. I went 6-0 straight up and 4-2 against the spread, getting me up to 10-12 for the season against the spread. Justin, 6-0, 3-3, solid. You were in first place at 13-9. Brett, 5-1, 2-4. Brett's only loss straight up was that ASU game. You know, we didn't know exactly how many injuries they had. It turned out to be like a crap ton of injuries, and it really hurt them in that game. Brett was 2-4, so he's now 11-11 on the season against the spread. We are in Pac-12 play, so we have 6 games. They are all conference games.
Why do we only care about against the spread?
We will.
Why are you not telling what we are on the season overall?
Okay, sure. Brett is in first place at 19-3.
I'm just
straight
gonna
up.
Everything straight up. Like,
I'm 18-4.
Lower risk, lower return.
Justin,
but I'll always return.
Justin is 17-5. Okay,
we're all right.
I'll
there.
make sure
we're all right there. It's 1 week can flip this thing on its head. So.
I'll make sure that I mention it in the future. All right, we have number 19 Colorado visiting number 10 Oregon. That game's on ABC.
God, some of these numbers are so insane to me.
12:30. Colorado is getting 21 points going up to Eugene. I'll start. No Travis Hunter. Okay, so that is a big factor.
Yep.
A lot of the underlying statistics don't look good for Colorado. For example, Shedeur Sanders has been sacked 15 times in 3 games. I don't think any other Pac-12 quarterback has been sacked more than 7 times. They haven't run the ball well. They haven't defended the run well. That's probably why the spread is so big. A lot of people think this is the week that Colorado gets its comeuppance. I am going to take Oregon to win the game, but I think Colorado, they just have a lot of fight in them. They don't give up. They're scrappy. I think they'll keep it close-ish. I mean, I could see Oregon winning this game, 45-28, in which case Colorado beats that 21. So I'm going Oregon to win, but Colorado to cover.
I was going to say 41-24. Same kind of premise, which is a blowout. Anyway, slice it. Maybe it's 41-17 with 4 minutes to go. I think 21 is a lot for a team that has. Do I believe? No, for a team who has continued to overcome the expectations of them. And I don't think Oregon, while good, has been great yet. I think they're an interesting dynamic. They've been in comparing it to the U of A good versus great argument, Oregon's better, obviously. But I think Oregon to win, Colorado to barely cover.
I don't know if you guys know this, but it's personal at Colorado.
I hadn't heard that.
It's been personal.
Interesting.
Dan Lanning.
Wonder where he got that idea.
Dan Lanning's had
it's not personal at Oregon. Dan Lanning doesn't know any of his. Okay.
Well, Dan Lanning, kind of gave off almost like a jealous vibe in leading up to the season. Like he didn't really understand why Colorado was getting a bunch of buzz. He was a little critical of Colorado, and so I think Colorado, they are going to use that as all sorts of motivation, even without Travis Hunter, who's out with a lacerated liver, which is a brutal thing to endure. So I'm going to go with the personal Buffaloes covering on the road, but Oregon, winning.
Okay, same time, 12:30 on Fox. We've got number 22 UCLA visiting number 11 Utah. The spread is kind of low in this game. It's kind of weird. Yeah. UCLA is getting only 6, going on the road to Rice-Eccles. We think that Cam Rising is going to come back for this game. We don't know for sure. Kyle Whittingham keeps those things very close to the vest. Justin, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you like?
Utes, baby. Utes to win and cover. I'm not making that same mistake picking against Utah at home. I tried doing that against Florida. They came out and dominated. I like the Utah Utes to get it done. And they win by 10 points, just like their performance last season when they won 42-32. It's going to be a lower scoring matchup, but Utah wins and covers.
Yeah, I made this point in my cat stats today, which is mostly about the Arizona defense, but I said Utah's defense is arguably the most impressive in the Pac-12 so far. They're second in most of the key categories despite playing 2 Power 5 opponents, at home against Florida and on the road against Baylor. And without having the support of their offense being fully functional. I think Cam Rising does come back for this game, and I'm with you. Like, betting against Utah when they're at home is just a losing proposition. I think Dante Moore has as high a ceiling as anybody. The freshman quarterback for UCLA. UCLA does run the ball extremely well, but this Utah defense is tough. Per usual, that is a tough place to play. That is a tough assignment for a freshman quarterback. So I'm also going to take Utah to win and cover.
I have a really flawed way of looking at the lines. I basically say, I round to the nearest scoring play. If it's 4.5, what it's really saying is it's a field goal difference. If it's 6, it's saying it's a touchdown difference. There's no way this game's settled by a field goal. Utah to win and cover. It might be close, 10, 14 points. It's not going to be 4.5. It's not going to be less than 6. So Utah to win and cover.
Okay, we will skip Arizona-Stanford, save that for last. Also at 4 o'clock, same time as the U of A game, Oregon State at Washington State. Number 14 Beavers, number 21 Cougars. Both are 3-0. Mm-hmm. They are the last men standing in the Pac-12, Pac-2, 2-Pac, whatever you want to call it. Tupac. This game is on Fox at 4 p.m. The Beavers are favored by 3 points at Martin Stadium in Pullman. I'm going to take Washington State to win this game. I think it's the line says it all. It's a very close matchup. I don't know if last week was maybe they were due for a letdown or it was a look-ahead game or something, but Oregon State was just kind of blah against San Diego State. Turned the ball over a couple times. They only scored 26 points against the Aztecs, who really struggled the previous week against UCLA. Cameron Ward's playing the best that he has since he's been at Washington State. That is a high-powered offense, and I think if Washington State can turn it into a track meet type of game, I'm not sure that's a game that Oregon State feels comfortable playing. So I'm going to take those 3 points and take the Cougars to win straight up.
Oof. How you feeling, Brett?
To me, it's bigger than this game. It's not just the Washington State, Oregon State, Pac-2 issues. I said this to you, Justin, on Spears and Ali this week when you had me on. I think Washington State is a dark horse to be unbeaten going into Seattle and the Apple Cup on Thanksgiving weekend. I think if you look at their schedule, they have Oregon State this weekend, obviously a huge game, at home. It's a pick'em game. It's a push. I think Washington State, by the way, my answer, Washington State wins this game. I think it'll be close, but Washington State wins. They then are at UCLA. I don't think UCLA is anywhere near as good as the country thinks they are. Then against Arizona. Sorry. I think they're going to kill Arizona. Then at Oregon. Okay, that's a tough one, but I'm going to take Washington State. At ASU versus Stanford. At Cal versus a very, very long season Colorado. And then at Washington for the Apple Cup. I think we are going to have 2 unbeaten Pac-12 teams in the top 5 in the country on Thanksgiving weekend in the Apple Cup. And Washington State's one of them. Washington State has the most impressive non-conference schedules or results so far. They beat number 19 Wisconsin, yes, at home. And Wisconsin's not great, but still, it's a big boy football game at that point. And they were up 36-3 on Colorado State in the fourth quarter before beating them 50-24. Colorado State did score 3 fourth quarter touchdowns, but beat them 50-24. The same Colorado State team that came within an inch of beating Coach Prime in Colorado. I think Washington State has been incredibly impressive, and I think that they will ride that this weekend, and that momentum will carry them to the top of the conference.
If they only had one loss going into the Apple Cup,
that
would still put them in a really good position to maybe sneak into the
you
Pac-12
win the Apple
championship
Cup, win
game.
the Pac-12 championship. If that happens and Washington does what it's supposed to do, it's going to be Washington State in the Apple Cup, and the winner of that goes to the Pac-12 championship game, and the winner of that with one loss,
goes to the playoff.
If the team in the South, SC or someone, has one or less, will go to the playoff. So I think their schedule is the opposite of Arizona's on that sense. They set up, they got 2 good opponents in there, 3 in Oregon State, Oregon, and who was the other one? Oregon State and UCLA. But 5 out of 6 games is Arizona, ASU, Stanford, Cal, and Colorado. I think you want that if you're Washington State.
These are 2 different teams than a year ago, but Oregon State won last season's contest by running the football, riding behind Damian Martinez, who had 112 yards, didn't score in that game. But, Oregon State, they didn't really have competent quarterback play. They had Ben Goldbranson. He was their quarterback last season in that contest. Now they got DJU.
Dude won 9 games last year for him.
I know, but
he's their best backup in the conference.
He's no DJU, and I think they have a better quarterback this time around. Cameron Ward threw for 55 times in that game last season. I think you're going to see something similar this weekend. I think Oregon State wins and covers, and that sets up potentially College Game Day going to Corvallis next week when they play Utah.
Totally unimportant element of Washington State. Their kicker's name is Dean Janikowski, and he's not related to Sebastian Janikowski.
What?
That just blows my mind.
It's like being a quarterback named Marino. No relation to Dan. It's crazy. But all right.
Moving on, we've got Cal at Washington. This game is on ESPN. It is a 7:30 game. This is a Pac-12 After Dark special. The line is 20.5. Washington is favored. I guess it's somewhat tempting to think that maybe they sleepwalk through this game a little bit, the Huskies. But I just don't see how Cal can keep pace with them.
No.
I mean, they struggle to score. They had a gazillion scoring opportunities against Auburn, and they ended up with 10 points.
Yeah.
I think the 50-plus point performance in the opener feels like a distant memory to me. And I don't know, Washington just feels like they are unstoppable right now. I ranked them 3rd in the AP poll. I really should have put them 2nd. And you talk about Brett made the case for Washington State's schedule, but
yeah,
Washington won at Michigan State. Granted, a Michigan State team in turmoil, but absolutely annihilated them, and they also killed Boise State, which most people thought coming into the season was the best group of 5 teams. So I'm going to lay the 20.5. I'm going to take the Huskies to win and cover.
I'm going with Washington to also win, but you said it's 20.5?
20.5.
I think Cal backdoor covers, or they somehow in the end will score a garbage time touchdown and it'll put it at 20 points exactly, because this is a personal game. Isn't Justin Wilcox got ties to the Huskies program? So this is going to be a very important game for him. I think Cal will have a garbage time touchdown to cover. So I got Washington winning, but Cal covering.
Washington win and cover. I've been talking a lot. I just want to get us moving.
All right. USC and Arizona
we got
State.
one
For
more.
once in my life, I want to say less.
We got one more here before we get to Arizona. This is USC at Arizona State. This game is on Fox. 7:30 p.m. as well. USC
hang on.
Yeah?
USC ASU is on Fox this week, and Washington Arizona is on Pac-12 networks next week. None of it makes sense.
Well,
I understand
know
it's about
that
order and pick and priority and who has the choice, but it makes no sense.
the Pac-12 had the second pick last week, as I understand it. So, and there were only 4 games because one of them's on a Friday, and I don't think Fox has any games besides the big noon, where they had the first pick. They took USC Colorado. So I think that's why that happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, USC is favored by 35 points on the road in Tempe. We know that ASU is really banged up, might not have their quarterback for the rest of the season, among other injuries. And I'm going to take USC, and I'm going to lay the 35 points. It might be painful along the way, or it might be like that game against Stanford a couple weeks ago where they just wiped them out and it was pretty much over. And I don't know, maybe you're still sweating at the end with that big of a spread, but I just think USC is in a great place right now, and ASU is in a dark place in a year 0 situation, struggling in all aspects. So I'm going to take the Trojans and lay that big number.
USC 49, ASU 10. That's my score. USC winning and covering.
I got USC winning and covering.
All right.
I wish we,
This is an easy
could
game.
know if anyone's playing this week or not.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to know. If we decided to go up there and watch practice, we might see if anyone's practicing. Couldn't tell anyone.
You know what?
I'm throwing shade because
okay.
of this USC stuff and everything, because every school in the country is doing this right now. And USC is rightfully so getting lambasted for in my opinion, rightfully so, for having a reporter suspended for 2 weeks. But the reality is this is not over. This is not a one-time thing. This is happening everywhere. And it reared its head last week. ASU allows reporters to practice, which is great, to watch practice, but they can't report on anything. And Jaden Rashada didn't practice last week, and they could not say anything until Saturday about it. That is absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
The Big Ten actually instituted an availability reports this year, which is, I believe, the first college conference to do something like NFL-like in that manner.
Like a certain
like
day?
2 hours before the game, they're supposed to release an availability report. I would love to see that across college football. But as we know,
I personally
no one
think
can agree on anything in college football.
You said this before we started recording today, Lev. I think the gambling component is a big issue with this.
Yeah.
Both of you said this.
Yeah.
To me, and it sounds like it would hurt the team. It won't. It's the day before. To me, 7 p.m. local time the night before the game. Enough time that the marketplace can react to some extent if there's a question mark.
Yeah.
Because again, 35 points with Jaden Rashada at quarterback for ASU, I'm inclined to say ASU is going to lose by 32.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
they're still going to get boat raced, but with what they put on the field last week, they're going to lose by 50.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about gambling lines with this, it needs to be known. So that's why I say that's great. I know I'm asking for a lot, but what can a team do to game plan in an extra 7 hours? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe there's a lot, but that would be my solution, is night before.
All right, guys, a few minutes left.
Yeah, so Arizona opened as a 9.5-point favorite. They are now a 12.5-point favorite. It is the first time they have been favored in a road game since the opener of the 2019 season. That was the game at Hawaii, which Arizona ended up losing. If it was 9.5, I would take Arizona, but it's crept over 10. Kind of using Brett's theory a little bit here, I can see Arizona winning this game by 10 points.
Yeah.
I can see the final score of this game being 30-20.
Yep.
Very easily in my mind, or 31-21, even 31-20. You'd still be on the wrong side of that 12.5. So I'm going to take Arizona to win. I'm going to take Stanford to cover. It just feels like too big of a number to me, and I'm just not quite there yet as far as trusting Arizona in a road situation, even though it is not the most intimidating venue around.
The Wildcats are putting up 31 points per game this season. They will hit 31 once again, right on the nose, winning 31-13. I think this is a perfect game for Arizona's defense to feast. Stanford ain't that good offensively. They have the 10th most yards, or the 10th best offense in the Pac-12. Offensive,
or the third worst.
Or the third worst, whatever you want to describe it. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, Lev, but yeah, Stanford ain't the Stanford that we've seen in years past. So I think Arizona's defensive front six, defensive line, linebackers, they're going to be all over the place.
Yeah, to that end, PFF, they do team rank grades too, and they give Stanford the third lowest pass blocking grade in the country right now at 29.3. And this is on a scale of 1 to 100. So they gave up 6 sacks last week against Sac State. Problem area. Brett, you're batting cleanup here.
If you're Troy Taylor, the Bradford M. Freeman director of football, Andrew Luck director of offense, and Kevin M. Hogan quarterbacks coach for Stanford, if you're, I just wanted to say that. That's all I want to say. No. Last week's loss, I can't imagine being in that circumstance. We talk about Arizona losing the NAU a couple of years ago in Jed Fish's first game and what that had to mean. But Troy Taylor came to Stanford from Sacramento State. That's where he was hired from. And they just lost to him. So, granted, he's rebuilding it, but I think Arizona covers. I think this is the week, like I said. This is not a homer call. I wouldn't be shocked if Arizona completely comes out and just falls on their face, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. I think Arizona covers. The offense looks better than it has all year and gets people really psyched to face Washington, which may be a rude awakening in a week. But I think it'll come through this week for Arizona.
Kickoff for Arizona-Stanford is scheduled for 4 p.m. on Saturday. You can watch that game on Pac-12 networks. Also, be sure to check out all of our coverage on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app.